Today we are talking about unmuting love's broadcast. And what made me think of this as I was meditating was that my daughter called me, and my kids in the background were yelling, and often I mute her so that because she likes to talk a lot, and so I'll just let her talk and listen and try to deal with what's going on in the house. And every now and then you'll hear her say, "Are you still there?" And I will unmute her and go, "Yes, I'm here," and then mute her again and then run around the house. And I have ADD, so I have the ability to multitask really well and can repeat back to her what she was saying. And then when she wants to pin down something specific, then we usually will have a conversation about that. I don't know if any of you can relate, but, we often, let me just step back for a second, and how I took that analogy in my meditation, it kind of made me giggle a little bit, is that how we mute love's broadcast signal. That it is always on broadcast. It is always who you are. Harmony is always present. Peace is always present. And you and your divine nature is traversing this life is always present. But how do we hit mute when the signal is being broadcast and give our attention to the variety of things that life has for us? That our attention can be easily pulled away from our practices to our everyday life, which we must navigate. But God's love, the universe, the creator, whatever word you're comfortable, the God of your understanding, is always speaking to you, through you, as you. And we get very busy in our lives. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I can say, Are you still out there? Kind of like Judy Blume, I'll say, "God, are you still out there? Are you still hearing my plea that I want to just feel an ounce of your love this week, that I feel beaten down and run over, and I have a little toddler at home that is not really nice sometimes." And I'm married, so there's buttons, and, I run a center, and there's all kinds of things going on in life that pull us away from the idea that love's broadcast signal is not there, or we can't hear it, and we need a little taste of that just to lift us up and carry us through the week. But when we begin to tune in, we start to understand that we might have just hit mute. And that signal is coming and coming and coming, but we really can't hear it because of the ways that we distract ourselves in the world. So in Science of Mind, and Ernest Holmes talked about moving the chess pieces around in the manifested world to get a different result. But really, it's all created in consciousness. And so we have to tune out not everything, because we have lives to live, we have things to do, we've got to cook dinner, we've got to get up, we've got to get dressed. But if we stop to just tune in to love's broadcast signal, and on the days we do that through our practices, I don't know about you, but I find those days to be much lighter and brighter, and I come to higher understandings and expand my consciousness and awareness, and I'm able to tell myself the truth a little bit more than I am if I'm hiding or muting the signal. Which I don't think that we mute the signal on purpose. I don't think that it's a purposeful action. I think that life and our beliefs about life and the way we've been conditioned and how we meet adversity is to the level that we love ourselves, is to the level that we mute. So what God spoke to me in my meditation, again, I'm comfortable with that word, what Spirit spoke to me was the equivalent of love that you have for yourself and the level of understanding you have personality is the direct and equal measure that you will feel my broadcast. It's so important to understand how, in the recesses of our mind, we can be unkind to ourselves more than anyone else. And in the reality of things in this world that we play in, there isn't anybody else. There are other bodies and minds and conditions and names and things, but really the utmost and highest self is all of our highest self. And it is always broadcasting. It is always showing you through your particular view of the world how it is you and always with you, if you could say. You know, it's really hard to talk about God without sounding dualistic. But for the nature of having the conversation, we say God's love, but God's love is always present. We just have to unmute by bringing our attention back in and asking the question, what am I not seeing or knowing about your love that I would believe that it was absent? What am I believing or not knowing or having a greater understanding of that would make me believe that I have to go out and find it? I don't know about you, but sometimes when I get into the busyness and the heaviness of life, because we're human beings, we're on this planet, we can't ignore that. But we come here for an hour on Sundays and more if you take classes to seek, to find. And I heard this story recently about looking for this jewel that God said, there's a truth that I want every being to know. And I want to put it somewhere where they can find it, but they have to really look and inquire into themselves. And they thought, oh, they could put it in the sky, but no, that wouldn't work. We could put it in the ground. No, that wouldn't work. Where is the place that is the most obvious, but they will rarely look? And the answer was the heart. The heart and the jewel of your divine essence and being is in the heart center of you. And often we have these moments with God after difficulties, but God is in the joy. God is in the working out in the grace of life, the coincidences, and I call them the rinky-dinks and the idiosyncrasies of life, of how this and then this and then this and then this and then this happened. And sometimes it's through tragedy that we're connected. I was gifted a book by John and Sue Love, and she has a beautiful story, which I don't want to, she's going to come and do a talk in March and tell us her beautiful story and her connection to God and the whole process of what I would say, how have you forsaken me? To you are my grantor of every need, and I absolutely and 100% give myself to you in complete surrender. And it's a beautiful story. I'm halfway through the book, and I've already told every single person that I talked to on the phone this week about this story, this miraculous story of knowing God's love so completely that their needs have been met in the most miraculous ways. It's really astounding. And what I've taken away from what I've read so far and through our meeting that we had and her words for me is don't give up hope. Enlightenment, or the teaching of the connection to the higher and divine self, is of utmost importance. It's the answer to all of the desires that you have or want. And teaching don't teach fear. Teaching love from fear to love. How do we move from fear to love? How do we surrender the idea, knowing? I'm so struck by the presence of both of them and the devout faith that it takes from losing every single thing, which I don't think most of us can imagine. I have lost some things, houses, jobs, the market in 2008, but I would have said, I gave myself to God to arrive right here. But when I was reading the book, I was like, oh, no. Yeah, I could see where I was still hanging on. And so the beauty is that we are people and we're traversing these lives, and we all have different conditioning. We all have different ways of being. But the one thing that's the same in all of us is our essence, our divine nature. And then the more that we get in tune with that, the more that we see that the only time we're not in tune or in touch with the thing that is when we've hit mute. And only you know in your personal life how you hit mute and how we can avoid or, I think in my life, because of the way I was raised being Catholic, there was this fear of God and not being good enough for God and not doing all the things that I needed to do to be close to God. But the truth is that's an old idea, a limiting idea that I get to let go of. But the only person that's going to let go of it is me. I can listen to 1,000,000 teachers. I can take 1,000,000 classes, but if I'm still hiding from that one idea, if it's still in the recesses of my consciousness, it's going to outplay in my life. And it's going to bring in around, and it's going to bring it around, and it's going to bring it around until I take God off mute and allow him to show me and to believe that he will sustain me through some of the most difficult, I say lessons, but it's not even a lesson, some of the difficult realizations of the thing that's pressing mute. That they're all in here. They're all in the recess of our mind. And it's our personal responsibility to build that relationship with ourselves and to discover what's standing in the way. And then God's grace is so merciful that it shows you with these moments of joy. And it's kind of like when you're fishing and you put that lure in the water for the fish and you're winding it up and that fish is like this, It leads you to that which you seek, which is already here. But there has to be a realization. And now I'm following a teacher, her name is Catherine Pincham, and she said something really interesting recently that intrigued me. She said, realization isn't an experience. The realization of God isn't an experience, it's an understanding. Let that land, because I don't know about you, but I'm waiting for an experience. The clouds part and I see sparkly things. And, there are people who have literal experiences in their realization or higher understanding of God. But most of us, as things fall away, you have that kind of look on your face like, oh, that was it? That was the thing that was in the way? That simple little nuanced pebble in the shoe? I once did a talk about put a pebble in a shoe, and we're walking and walking, and the pebble is really irritating you. But the more you walk, the more the callus builds up, the more the skin surrounds the stone, the callus gets thicker, the stone's still there, until one day you don't even realize that it's there anymore, and you're walking on it, but it's still there. And then one day you're looking at your foot, and you have a lump on the bottom of it, and you're like, what is this? And then you go to the doctor, or maybe you self-care, and you start to whittle away this one little nuanced thing that reveals a pain that has been long since forgotten but was still there. And we become our ideas, our beliefs, our thinking, and that as we start to turn inward and look at them, instead of going outward with blame, shame, fear, guilt, we start to go inward and we look at our buttons. It's funny, I was talking to John Love today, and he was talking about the ideology of buttons. And when I was driving up, Spirit said, remember that talk that Michelle Medrano gave about it's my button? There's 2 talks in my life that I remember distinctly, and one of them was from Catherine McDowell, who has just passed, and so bless her soul. She was a profound teacher in religious science, and she gave this talk about God is even in the screaming kid throwing a fit in the mall on the, at that time my grandkids lived with me, and I had to remember when they throw themselves on the floor, there goes God. That how we think God looks is our mind. We can really never know, but we conceptualize. And the other talk was by Michelle Medrano, and all my family went. We went to New Visions, and we got to hear her speak, and she was saying, that it's my button. My button. So if you're irritated, it's your button, that we have to look at our own button and follow and trace it back and unmute the signal, because the signal of love's broadcast is so immense and so powerful that I often wonder, are we muting a love that is so great that we can't really, because we haven't cleared out all of the negative ideas yet, that love feels so uncomfortable, that the old idea and the chaos feel much more comfortable because we know how to navigate it, than the idea of God's love, where we feel completely and totally loved beyond anything we ever could have done, said, or thought about ourselves. I don't know about you, but that's a little unsettling to me, in all honesty, because my mind says that's a lot to measure up to. Oh, if I feel that, I'm going to really have to measure up. But the reality is that is the mind and the game it plays versus the reality and the totality of spirit. And once you get a whiff of that fragrance and that essence, it just pulls you along where you want to keep watering yourself and you want to unmute and you want to give all your attention to it. And there's a certain reality that goes along with our humanness, that each of us are built with a particular constitution. And for me, with my ADD, I might be able to dedicate 2 times a week and do my meditations. And then if it's really good, I might do it for 6 days. And then something happens and I don't do it, and then I won't do it for 6 more days, and then I can really beat myself up and I think I'm muting. But the truth is, muting as an analogy is just a misdirection of attention. So we even have to learn to go with the flow of our body and allow our practice to be bhakti or devotion in the way that it wants to and it feels good. That forcing devotion or bhakti, devotion, or even a particular spiritual practice in itself can be damaging, because then we judge ourselves if we don't do it. But if we really feel into the love and the love signal and broadcast, it really does lead us and guide us, and its essence is always present. So there's really nothing that needs to be done other than to put it all down. So we have to recognize our own nature, start to like it, get in tune with it. Love our bodies, love our minds, love our egos, love our hearts, love how we show up, own our shortcomings, be completely and totally and radically honest with ourselves. And I don't know about you, but that's hard. It's hard. We're afraid of judgment. We're afraid of fear. We're afraid of rejection. But the truth is that the people that deserve that have earned your trust. It's not something that we want to go around telling everybody, because then we can fall into the people pleasing. Look at me. This is who I am. I want you to love me. I want you to like me. But the reality is the people who have earned your trust, where you can say, hey, gosh, this is something that I've been carrying. And if they've earned your trust, like a teacher or a dear friend, they'll sit with you in silence and say, that's not the truth of you, but good for you to notice. Good for you to heal, good for you to let it go, so that is equivalent to unmuting the broadcast signal of the divine. And it's challenging because we're humans, and it's challenging because we have these beautiful minds. But the truth is, we have this perfect whole and completeness in ourselves and the essence of who we are, that harmony is always present. And when we see the chaos, we give our attention to it, but it doesn't mean harmony isn't there. Love and God's love is always present. But when we point to mute, or we beat ourselves up, or we get really busy and we make the world more important than our practice, even that is okay. That we just have to feel into that signal and know that it is here. We have to take that collective breath and pause. We have to know that the beloved is you, as you, and that we have these gorgeous lives to live, and that if we stop and even ask to be shown that signal, we'll start to see the magnificence of each and individual person that cross our paths. We'll see the magnificence of the coincidences and the rinky-dinky idiosyncrasies of life, and how right action is always happening, and anything opposite that is our mind making up something about it. And that's what the total truth and radicalness has to be dropped and let go. And this week, I just invite you into that. I invite you into the radicalness of self-truth, the radicalness of communing with our beloved, the radicalness of looking at the button and seeing the discomfort and saying the truth and looking how we reject, we push away, we justify, we overconversate, and because we really don't, because we want to be liked and all of those things. But the truth is, when you unmute the signal and it fills your essence, there's a realization or understanding comes that what you're looking for is already here. It's already broadcasting. It's already in motion. It's already bringing to you everything that you need. And we just have to look at how we're hitting mute. Can we sit in the discomfort of discovering ourself and then let it go completely? To me is surrender. To hear that broadcast in a new way that our mind does not know and cannot make something up about. In closing, I just want to say, take that into your week and leave you with the question, am I muting God's signal? How am I muting God's signal? Because the signal is there. And we just pause and we listen in the stillness. We watch our movement to check our phone. I heard the monks say in the morning, the best practice, the monks that were marching to Washington, in the morning, take a breath, do not touch any electronics, get up, make your bed nice and tidy, and just feel the goodness and the truth of your nature. So with that, I'll just bring us into prayer with this idea that that broadcast signal is always on. Harmony is always on. Love is always on. The light of your essence becomes illuminated with the attunement and the understanding of the highest and utmost teaching, the direct line to the highest self, as we let everything fall away and we sit in the discomfort of our personal nudity, the idea of letting all of our fears go and really testing the theory that I trust you, God. Beyond anything else, I trust. And we just watch and allow that to evolve and to grow and to prove itself to us in a way, to the mind. That there is only one essence, one beloved, one nurturing signal. And if we let that in for a fraction, if you can only give it 1 minute, it's enough. If we only give it 2 minutes, it's enough. Whatever you can give to that signal to allow it to permeate your beingness, a shift will occur. An openness will happen. An understanding has been completed. Whatever you give it is enough. Every person is different, and how we let ourselves go and how we appreciate ourselves more is that the time and the essence that we give to it is equal in measure to what we receive from it. But a minute second can be a complete understanding. And as it grows and nurtures you, you give yourself more to it because the trust and the faith grows. And then there goes the hope and understanding. And then we move from fear to love. And love is fierce and beautiful, and so are you. I release these words into the law, knowing the divine perfection of the Spirit, that it is me, it is you, it is unfolding continually in this planet and this thing called earth and these people. And as we turn our attention away from the world and put it on the beloved within, the diamond in the heart, it grows in understanding and we become more reciprocal. We attract the right people, the right places, the right thing. They show up. They fall into place. You don't have to do a thing to earn anything in this world. You are enough just the way you are. I release these words knowing that they are truth filtered through the ethers, and that they expand the heart and the consciousness of the mind, and they land in the right place for the right time for you this week, and that you become illuminated with your joy and your purpose, and something new shows and shines its way, and that path is open. I'm so excited for the glory and love of the beloved. I know this truth. I release it, and so it is.